Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Acker, and I am the Vice President of the Student National Education Association. I will be serving as the facilitator for tonight's session, and I will be monitoring the chat box throughout. My co-host tonight is Kylie Jackson. Before we continue, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping rules. Keep your mic muted unless told to do otherwise. You can type all your questions into the chat box, and we will try to pass those along to our presenter. And there might be time during the presentation dedicated to questions at the end as well. Today's presentation will be led by Brevard County Schools. Mike Alba will introduce our speaker for tonight's presentation. Without further ado, the School of Teacher Education and the Student National Education Association presents Brevard County Public Schools.
Thank you so much for your time and arranging this opportunity for us to be able to speak to you all this evening. So we're really excited tonight to have Ms. Patty Adams. She works with Fiddlers. So if you're not familiar with that organization, this will be a great opportunity for you to be aware of the great work they do to support our schools, our teachers. Great partner for professional development. If you're looking for wonderful PD opportunities, many of them are on demand and of no cost. So we certainly, certification is under my department. So we always have teachers reach out to us and asking, I need, it's my last year to get certification points. What are some good workshops? And we typically always steer them towards Fiddlers, just because it's very convenient and it's also great information. So it's a nice opportunity to partner with them. So I am going to turn it over to Ms. Patty Adams, and she'll share with you regarding Fiddlers and how you can take advantage of all the awesome opportunities they have to offer teachers. Patty?
Thank you, Mike. Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Patty Adams, and I am I actually wear two hats for Brevard Public Schools. I am the Assistant Director for Program Supports, which is a division within Student Services. So I support the exceptional student education programs. And I'm also the manager of an organization called FDLRS East, which is a statewide project. And that's what we're going to focus on today. I dropped some files into the chat box, so hopefully you can see those and access those. And I'm going to go ahead and hide that because we don't need that. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. Oh my goodness, I have my accessibility features set for Spanish translation because one of the things we do is parent training, and we always try to be as accessible as possible. So I guess we'll just leave that on. So we'll just keep going.
I was going to say, if you want to leave them on, that's fine, because we do record, and if anybody misses the session, we can give it to them as well.
Fabulous. So there we go. So yes, I am going to talk to you today about Fiddlers. My particular Fiddlers Associate Center that supports Brevard and Volusia County is called FDLRS East, but we are indeed a statewide project. The way that our project works is we are a subset under the Bureau of Exceptional Education and Student Services within the Florida Department of Education. So yet another acronym for you to learn. It's BEAS, Bureau of Exceptional Education and Student Services. And then we have a state administration project that supports us. And then as you can see, there's a variety of centers. FDLRS East is called an associate center, and then there's specialized centers across the state as well. So that's the organizational structure for us. And as we do our work, we of course align that work to the Department of Education and B's goals. Everything that we do as a discretionary project has to funnel back and touch and support higher student achievement, articulation, maximum access, looking at workforce, and then quality and efficient services. And of course, with our lens of exceptional student education, we kind of focused in those areas to support these goals. So while graduation rate is an important data point for everyone, we specifically also look and support graduation rate for students with disabilities. And we also look at the B's strategic plan. As you get into school districts, you're going to learn all about each school district has a strategic plan, and everything aligns. All the work in the district is supposed to align to the strategic plan. And so the DOE's got their strategic plan as well. So this is our guiding work, our topics that we use and support to get to those overall goals of the DOE. When we think about transition and post-secondary, it really gets into preparing our students and supporting their education. Again, for ESE students are eligible to stay within public schools up until the age of 22. So we really look at and support those things. Obviously, we do some curriculum training, looking at access with our students who are on what's called access points, which is a different set of standards. We have a big piece of parental involvement and engagement and so forth. One of our largest growing areas right now is actually pre-K and supporting the pre-K world. So as I said, you heard me say earlier, a discretionary project is the type of project that we are. There's many discretionary projects. All of these discretionary projects are funded through IDEA funds, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. That is the funding source for our work. The federal government gives each state a bucket of money, and Florida decided to allocate some of that money to support this network. Our work focuses in 4 areas operationally, per se. Child Find is one, parent services, human resource development, and that is professional development and training, and also technology supports, whether it's training about technology, technical assistance about technology, not necessarily the hardware though, but how can we use technology to help students access curriculum? So has anybody heard of Fiddlers before? So Hannah's saying yes. Some people are saying no. I don't see everybody. All right. So let me. So this document further explains some of the topics and specifics of each of the functions that I just talked about. And this document is in the chat box. And when I take you to the website, I'll pull it up electronically so we can investigate it a little bit more clearly. It's really hard to see small. So, but this is in the chat box for you to pull down. So when we think about how Fiddlers centers are organized, they're organized by region. So again, thinking about the fact that there are many, students at UCF in education that come from across the state, any district will have access to supports provided by Fiddlers that I'm sharing with you now. So we've got, like I said, 19 centers and broken into 5 different regions. And you can see pretty clearly with the color coding kind of how we're organized. Brevard and Volusia County, we are in Region 3 along with Action, which is, Action actually is Orange County and Seminole County and Lake County would be Action, Fiddlers Action. So thinking about our immediacy of counties that touch right around UCF. When we think about how we do our work, you can find these documents on our website, and I'll show you that too. We are guided by by legislation. Actually, we're written into code. We've got very specific operating procedures that we have to follow, and then our competencies guide us in hiring and interviewing and really thinking through how we best operate to support our districts, because everything we do really does come down to responding to the need of the district. Are there any questions so far? It's a very small group, so please unmute your mics and just pop in. I want to try to have a little bit more conversation than me just talking. So, all right. So every year, Fiddlers has to report out our work, and we do an annual report every year. So and this is statewide. The big buckets of types of training that we do, you can see that across the state, even with our strangeness of having COVID and professional development being turned upside on its head and people working from home, we still managed as a state network to provide over 6,000 trainings with almost 130,000 participants. I think as an associate center and as a discretionary project, we're all very, very proud of how we were able to step in and really support districts and families throughout COVID in how, when we were all trying to figure out how to do this virtually, right? How do we teach virtually? How do we have students have access virtually? What does that mean? And we provided as a network multiple parent webinars on accommodations in a virtual world. Like parents, how do you turn on your digital tools and your accessibility in your home computers, or you picked up your laptop from your school, but for your student, how can we help you get it more accessible? So lots of individual parent support, as well as online webinars with hundreds and hundreds of people attending, parents and teachers. So lots of work throughout the state, and that work just continues. I think this really has changed the way of work for a lot of us, for all of us, in terms of professional development as well. I think our focus is going to always have virtual, even moving forward when face-to-face, or definitely blended at a minimum. So really pushed ourselves as professionals too. So as a specific center providing support, again, FDLRS East is both Brevard County and Volusia County. We were able to provide training for 4,300 teachers last year. So our Child Find group switched to doing all virtual screenings. So no face-to-face with that, screening little ones, online. So it's a pretty amazing pivot. So again, Brevard and Volusia is your FDLRS East group. So what I want to do now is just take a few minutes and highlight exactly what happens for each function. Let me see the chat. All right, here's a question. So we've gotten used to COVID, or have you found that? So less questions or about the same? I think what's happening with the questions from parents and from students, both, or families and teachers, I think the good thing is, as people have, like you said, become more used to it, right? And coming out of limbic a little bit and trying to get into, a little bit more reasoning, the questions have gotten deeper, I think, from survival into really how do we try to hone the craft and really get deeper with the work. Definitely, I feel like teachers have gotten more flexible, definitely got more flexible in their understanding of the importance of digital tools and the use of digital tools by students. I believe that teachers have had to take ownership of their own learning in very different ways as well. I think that's a positive push. It was a painful push. But I feel like as things have settled per se, there's much more of a rhythm and people are more comfortable reaching out for smaller bits of information. I know that we as a center, all of our training has turned from come into us and sit down with us for a full day to here's a little bit, go process this online or read this, be ready to talk about this. Very much check in and check out kind of professional development. Here's an online course, self-paced with check-ins 4 times throughout the course that you have to attend, and that's your interaction piece. So I think the questions, they haven't decreased, but I think they've gotten more sophisticated in terms of usage, if that makes sense.
I've got a question. You might have already covered this, so I apologize. So, thinking that, this group is, future educators, can college students or students doing their internship, can they access courses through Fiddlers, or is it only once they become, obtain a position within a district that they can access the courses?
So I think the technical answer is you have to be within a district to participate in a training, because oftentimes we have we have our ProGo system and you come in and you have to sign up and you have to access district specific platforms for virtual training. I think that there's always room for auditing, if that makes sense. Reaching out with a specific question and a need, or I'm wondering about this. Can I watch a training? Can I participate, especially in a situation like this where it's virtual? I think that there is a little bit of flexibility because we as a discretionary project can operate somewhat independently per se, sort of. So it's not a hard and set answer. If it's something that's sponsored by the district using district platform, then of course we're limited by having the ability to use district specific systems. If it's something Fiddlers is using and we've put a registration flyer out and say, here, sign up here, and we're using our platforms, that's a totally different answer. Does that make sense?
Yes,
and I'll show you, I'm going to walk through these next couple of slides, and then I want to take you to the website and show you how things are advertised and where to find the resources. So again, so the function of Child Find, and this is an important thing for people to understand and share the word about. Our Fiddlers Child Find works with school districts, focusing on students or children ages 3 to 5, and really working towards screening and identifying them for needs and potential services within the districts, right? So there's a lot of outreach that happens within Child Find. So I'm going to do a little plug, as you talk to friends, as you talk to family members, any suspected developmental delay, any kind of question of, oh, wow, should my baby, should my niece be doing this yet? Child Find's a great resource. And I think if we all think about that, not necessarily just as teachers, but as friends and family members, understanding how Child Find works in the broader picture across the state is really important. It's a fabulous resource for supporting our babies and getting that early intervention going. They do screenings, and then if the student if it indicates any further need, then the Child Find teams pass that information on to the districts, and the districts take over from there, and the districts determine eligibility for exceptional student education services. But Child Find works through the court system. Child Find touches daycare centers. They go to doctors' offices. They do all kinds of research, outreach. That's the word I was looking for. across the state last year, 454 babies were found eligible for early intervention through the work of Child Find. So thinking about down the road for educators, if your heart is early childhood, if your heart is early intervention, Child Find is a great place and a job role for you to consider that you may not have on your radar. Especially if you have an interest in exceptional student education in any way, and that combination with early childhood. So, and then in Brevard County and Volusia County, we found a total of almost 1,100 toddlers eligible for pre-K services. And thinking about the effect of early intervention on our, future academics and future supports for our students, this is a crucial piece of the puzzle. Any questions about Child Find? I'm seeing no's. Okay. In addition to the screening, they do a lot of family training. They work with our teachers and our community daycare centers, providing training on appropriate developmental stages, pre-K core literacy. We are very involved in providing training on conscious discipline, which is a fabulous social emotional learning curriculum. And then, of course, depending on what the needs are of the district with specific topics that they ask. But this is the training branch of Child Find and where they live in their space, their happy space, supporting the needs of our babies. Parent services is another big impact, another big focus for all Fiddler centers. And each center kind of handles parent services a little bit differently. But it's that wraparound training support, trying to increase parent participation in for our students with exceptional needs. Specific things here in Brevard County that we focus on is active parenting, family cafe. We are very involved with planning and supporting the parent leadership team for the district. So any parent training that Jenny Cleason, I don't know if she's had any presentations for you all, but she's a fabulous resource about including parents. We're one of her partners in putting together her parent leadership training. We are about to do a surrogate parent training, working with Guardian Ad Litem and their volunteers. So we have a stable of parents ready to stand in when necessary in a legal aspect for IEP meetings, etc. Oh, and Special Ed Connection. I need to show you guys that. If I don't forget, don't let me forget when I go to the website to pull that up, because that's a good resource for educators too. Our professional development branch, again, works to support the strategic plan of our districts. We work through workshops face-to-face, learning communities. We've really pushed ourselves to include more coaching this year because, again, embedded side-by-side professional development and training is much more effective. This is a new piece for Fiddlers as well. We have a impact data where we ask any teacher who participates in our trainings to then take the content. We ask them to collect student data based on their learning and then provide the results into our impact database so we can really measure effect size of our trainings. So we can track the important piece of getting the effect of the training down to the student level. So that's a big piece that we have added as a project to our way of work. And I mentioned our technology is the other branch. assistive technology, instructional technology, and universal design for learning is the areas of expertise needed for our technology specialists. They worked hand in hand with ET departments across many districts to again help support the move to virtual learning platforms for students and for teachers. And I mentioned our professional developmental models. And we have definitely moved from the traditional face-to-face much more over here to the digital synchronous and digital asynchronous. And again, I believe as a discretionary project, that switch is flipped. I don't know that we're going to do very many face-to-face in-person moving forward. I just don't see it. Now, when I think about our specific work here in Brevard and Volusia, we have a very strong partnership with our Office of Professional Development. We are integral partners in delivering their CHAMPS training, which is that have you all seen anything about CHAMPS yet? It's at least for Brevard, it's their district Tier 1 behavior classroom procedures. Okay. We are trainers in strategic instruction model with content enhancement routines and learning strategies as both. Accommodations, IEP accommodations. And then the other big area of focus is professional development alternative courses, or PDA. And we're going to go look at that website in a moment. Because this portal, the Bees portal, and again, this will be, I'll take you there in just a moment, is rich with resources. It's funded, or it's put together by DOE, Fiddlers, and a lot of other discretionary projects. And what they've done is they're gathering all online learning and courses into this one portal. Courses on this portal are free. They all focus on helping educators increase their ability to respond to the needs of students with disabilities. So everything here is there. It's just fabulous resources. Some of these courses are facilitated and some are independent study. And these, we help coordinate the facilitated courses. Our people teach the facilitated courses. We help people get registered for the facilitated courses. And then how Fiddlers interacts with the independent study courses is different across the centers. Here in Brevard County, my PDA coordinator works very closely with the certification office and helps people get their credits and get everything organized up front so they get their in-service points. Think that. So here's a list of what we teach. And this center each center doesn't teach all of these courses each semester, but as a state across the centers, they're all taught frequently. The nice thing about being a network with Fiddlers is if my center is not running a course and one of the teachers in Brevard or Volusia is interested in the course, they reach out to the PDA coordinator, and that PDA coordinator can help get that teacher enrolled in another center's course. So it truly is a statewide network, which is part of the beauty of this and why I wanted to really take some time right here, because you'll see that there's a reading endorsement course on here. There's the Exploring Structured Literacy course is a fabulous course getting into the foundations of reading. you guys being fresh and coming out are probably really well versed in a lot of the reading requirements, because I know that that's now been embedded in here into your work. But when we think about some of these courses, they really focus in on students with disabilities specifically. The technology for student success, assistive technology, is very robust and gets into digital tools and supports. And so that's always a very popular course for many, many, many teachers. Another resource that Fiddlers pulled together, and you can find on the website, is all discretionary projects, virtual instruction resources. So as people were scrambling, Fiddlers and discretionary projects became the vetters of all of the, ooh, try this thing, and so the resources that are on this page have at least been reviewed and looked at by educators, which is always a good thing, because sometimes teachers just don't have the time to do the research, and it's nice to have a trusted source of place that, things to go to. So when we think about other discretionary projects, there's a lot of them. It's an alphabet soup, just like everything in education is an alphabet soup. We work with CPOMs. We're very involved with the MTSS project, often doing co-trainings. CARD is the Center for Autism Research. Lots and lots of coordination across discretionary projects, and each of these projects is funded again through IDEA funds with slightly different foci. Ours really is district response to supporting the needs of teachers and families. The partnership that Fiddlers has the strongest relationship with is the Florida Inclusion Network. They're kind of a fifth function per se. And that discretionary project is focusing solely on inclusion, as the name implies, supporting and ensuring all students with disabilities have the same educational, social, and future opportunities as their peers. So here in Brevard and Volusia, our FIN is what they call themselves, is Bill Perlman. And they work with districts very much the same way that Fiddlers does, using data, focusing on problem solving, professional development, coaching, and that, again, building that collaborative relationship between families and schools and districts. Finn has a nice presence in that conversation, a good resource for families to learn how to sometimes have a hard conversation with a school per se. And I should have put this in the chat box as well, but I will. It's just a one-page resource, obviously, about what Finn can provide in more specifics. So I'll show you their website as well. So I'm going to click out of that, and I'm happy to answer any questions as I'm coming over here. And if I did this right, you're seeing the Bees portal. Is that right?
Yep.
Good. All right. So before I go there, I've done a lot of talking, and I just want to hear maybe some thoughts you're having, some questions you might have about how things, if the project is organized, or more specifics about how we support on a day-to-day. What's in your brains right now?
I had a question about Finn. So it's a network for families to use to get to know is it like more of how the school and them will be involved in the students' academics, or?
So that's one of the things that they can do. I'm trying to, here, I'll just change it. I'll do it like this. Their mission in Finn is to promote inclusionary practices. When we think about students with disabilities, having a student with an IEP sitting in a classroom does not necessarily mean that student's included, if that makes sense. Because inclusion is much more than a setting. There's a way to think about the overall environment and culture of the school.
Right.
And so Finn's mission is to help support that. They get involved with helping administrators look at overall school culture, perhaps. They do training on building inclusive schools, which really can stretch beyond just students with disabilities, right? When we think about inclusiveness in general. But they can go everything from very basic definitions, like what is inclusion,
Right.
What's the myth, what is it, what isn't it, down to, so what does it look like and sound like, right? So how do we operationalize thinking behind inclusion? So lots of strong resources here. And the family resources that are on the Finn website. Let me bring this one up. Sorry, I don't want to make you dizzy. So this is a great one too. Tips for families supporting their children with disabilities in virtual formats. Great resource right there. And then they have their list of fact folios. Let me make that a little bit larger because that's probably hard to see. So again, very family friendly. What does it mean to be inclusive? How do I be an advocate? What's it mean to have an inclusive classroom and school, right? But I think that when we think about these very basic questions, I think it's important information for teachers as well. And so you'll see they've got fact folios like this for teachers as well. So one thing to know in terms of your future growth as educators, if you are in a situation where your classroom is designated as one where there's collaborative teaching happening, which you've got an ESE teacher with a gen ed in the same classroom working collaboratively, Florida's Inclusion Network's training on collaborative teaching is the training that you will be required to attend. That's a mandated training. But the resources that they have for this are amazing resources, even if you're not in that situation yet, right? Planning templates. This single resource is one I used all the time in my classroom, teaching elementary school students to be effective writers. So if you've not seen that yet, I suggest you pull that down because that's a great one. So again, this website has lots and lots of very rich resources for you to access. And that is simply, oh, good heavens, this is in the way. Where can I hide this? There. Videos of strategies. So good resources. If you need to do anything in your work exploring ESE strategies, this is a great website for you to go to. Their curated webinars. Right now, the only one they have up is they had a webinar about supporting students with significant cognitive disabilities in the virtual environment as well.
I was a beneficiary of the FIN program, and particularly Bill Perlman, which Patty spoke about, is our trainer here in our district. So, when we were moving into more collaborative teaching and as an administration kind of scheduling that over the summer, we just thought that was important. It's one thing to kind of manage your allocations as far as how many teachers you have, and you can build the schedule, and all that takes a lot of time. But if you don't invest in teacher training, then you're assuming a lot's going to happen without specific training and deliberate training with the teachers. So we try to set up our teachers with as much knowledge, as much success. So we actually use some additional PD money, and we had people come in prior to the school training, and had some follow-ups afterward. Just making sure that our teachers that were collaborating together kind of knew exactly what that meant. Just because you put two teachers in a room together doesn't necessarily mean positive things are going to happen, right? If they're just especially if they're used to working independently, they really know how to utilize their talents. So that was really beneficial. We all have these supports.
It is, and I think as teachers, that's one thing. We all have the vision of my classroom, right? Like, oh, I can't wait to get my classroom and my kids, and then having to have a shared responsibility. There's lots of positives about that, but sometimes you have to kind of learn how to navigate that a little bit if you've never been in that space. And that's part of what Bill's training does. And again, that ongoing coaching that he provides is a new piece this year. Again, and think about this in terms of a virtual world now too, right? I think hopefully we won't have this to deal with much longer, much beyond this school year, but that's another whole other layer that our teachers have had to wrap their heads around. How do we collaboratively teach virtually? And so yes, and so what Mr. Alba was talking about starts with inclusive scheduling. How do we allocate resources to best support inclusionary practices? This is a great project. Peers as partners in learning, and I'm proud to say that Vieira High School here in Brevard was all set to start to initiate this, to pilot this for Brevard Public Schools, but then when the reality hit that we were going to remain in a virtual setting for this school year, we've put this on hold. It's a fabulous program in which it is an actual class that's taught by a teacher willing to take this project on, and the teacher teaches peers, students, how to support in a very reciprocal way our students with more significant needs. So it's not just like a best buddies kind of thing. It's got elements of that because of some of the social, but it makes that a much more robust idea, if that makes sense. Gives it some structure, gives it a little bit of it definitely gives a curriculum for the students. It gives the curriculum for both sets of students. Then interesting thing and fabulous thing is, and we can all remember this, learning and talking with a peer is so much more effective than adult keep telling you the same thing. And so this really works on having peers teach the other students self-advocacy and like navigating the world a little bit differently. And so it's a really exciting project that's going to be coming to Brevard Public Schools. So we're thrilled about that. So let me bring you to the Fiddler's website real quick and highlight some of the things that you can find there. That's a little small. Here, let me make this a little bit larger. I'll just walk through some of the navigation, and then just some more questions. So if you have any other questions, just literally unmute and let me know. So this is the main Fiddlers website. So when you get here, it's fiddlers.org. To find a specific center, you can just pop down and they're all listed here. So no matter where you end up teaching, no matter where you land, you can find your Fiddlers Center specifically through this main hub. The piece that I want to show you, there's a link right here back to the PDA portal. And so here's, again, all of these resources are just resources throughout the state or the nation about just a variety of things that people have curated. But what I wanted to show you, sorry. Here, that's the piece. Oh my goodness, Patty Drive. The recorded webinars. This piece is potentially a very good resource for you as students and future teachers or family members and parents. There's a whole list of resources available for parents. Remember I mentioned that accommodation piece. We just finished hosting a statewide for educators, actually it's probably on the parent webinar, a 3-part series on dyslexia. And that's recorded and all the resources are there. So here's accessibility, providing accommodations. Here's a dyslexia webinar. We just finished part 3, so it's not up yet. Formative assessment and distance learning. So all kinds of resources right here on this website that teachers can access at any point. So Mike, going back to your previous question about can anyone access? Once it's posted here, absolutely. And then if you want to kind of keep track of what's happening, trying to scroll slowly so I don't get sick. Here are the up and coming resources and then other links to other statewide. So I told you I wanted to share with you Special Ed Connect. Oh my word, that's not what I want to do. My apologies. Ooh, I don't want to leave. I don't want to do that either. That's not what I want. All right, they have that set up a little bit differently on theirs than I do. So I'm going to come in through the parents. Now it looks like it's parents, but you don't have to be a parent to register for this. What I will do, if you register through FDLRS East, you can register as a teacher. And then the fabulous thing about this resource is all kinds of information about special education, obviously. Dictionary, roundups, which are quick to consume and read, best practices kind of pieces of information. So yes, it's a parent resource, but lots of great information for teachers as well. So what I will do is I'll send you the link, our registration link. Let me go there. So the FDLRS East site mirrors that one. I just want to get this link into the chat box for you. So if you register for Special Ed Connect using this link, you see we've got educator as a choice, and we'll get you an account. So where's my chat box? Where is my chat box? There. Maybe. There. Sorry, I've got two monitors and things keep flying. There you go. So there's the link for Special Ed Connect. So what questions do you have now? Or is there something you saw me flick through real quick that you would like me to show you?
On the website that you were on, not the Special Ed Connection, the one you were on prior to that, you were on a Padlet. How do you get to that Padlet?
That Padlet was through Finn.
Okay.
Okay, but what I can do, you'll give me a minute, I will put the link specifically to that Padlet in the chat box as well, so you don't, because it's so hard to find all of these.
Yeah, I tried to find it on the website.
Yeah, it's a little bit buried.
Definitely can use all the writing resources.
Oh, it was a family. Was it the collaborative teaching one? Give me just, yes, that's it. So here's the Padlet.
Thank you.
Here we go. So again, in your work, while you're finishing up, just good resources on how to teach students with learning differences. There's theory, but then how do you really pull it together, right? That's always the magic. So I recommend you add the Finn resources to your bars. Good stuff there. So.
I'm thinking about, I mean, awesome resources. I'm glad it's recorded, so then people can come back and kind of look at where all the different resources are. There's so much information here. You know, just thinking of, you know, new teacher coming out of college, you know, or maybe even the teacher first 2 years, maybe 3 years. You know, you can't take all of this training, you know, and you want to learn how to do your job too. So, you know, if you were to highlight maybe a few courses for beginning teachers, are there any that come to mind? Or is that just too loaded of a question and it really depends on the situation that the teachers are in? You know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, yeah, it is kind of loaded because of the general, like what kind of teacher, what grade, what level. But I think that if I were to make a recommendation about ESE knowledge, if you're a Gen Ed teacher, not an ESE teacher, I'm going to answer first for Gen Ed. If you're a Gen Ed teacher, I think one of the first things to try to wrap your head around is IEP accommodations. And so here in Brevard, we've got an all-day training and we have a half-a-day training. Well, it's a self-paced course with a chunk. And we've taken that accommodations training and really built it bringing them to life in the classroom, right? So I've got this document, this IEP, and I don't quite understand how the kid got an IEP or whatever, but I want to teach this kid to the best that I can to meet his or her needs, right? That's our mission as teachers. We are all driven to that, to help each and every one of our students succeed. But I don't get this IEP. The thing to focus on early is the identified accommodations in that IEP, because the IEP team has met to decide if we all focus and provide these supports, the student will be more successful. If yeah, we'll just leave it at that. The student should be more successful with these supports in place. And so that understanding is crucial. Like that's step one when you get your class roster. Who are my students with learning differences that have IEPs? And then what do I have to do to provide them the necessary legally required supports? But then what does that really mean? Right? Like, so what does it really mean if a student needs extended time? How do I document that? What do I do? Is that, you know, so that piece, I think in terms of ESE for brand new gen ed, that's the piece that I would tackle when you were cognitively ready to move into an ESE kind of space. That would be the one.
Well, I love that one. So I'm so glad I asked the question. I think that was a perfect response. That makes, looking back over, all the new teachers that came into my school over the years, that course would have solved a lot of issues. Not only with new teachers, but veteran teachers too, if they understand the IEP. So I think that's a great one to recommend at the very beginning. That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So what other questions might you have or thoughts?
I just want to say thank you for the resources and everything. I personally have realized that for elementary education at UCF, they only make us take one exceptional education class. So they just kind of like, my professor's wonderful and she just kind of like gives us everything, but it's really nice to have like some tangible resources that we can use like moving forward from this class. So thank you for bringing your attention to them.
You're very welcome. So yeah, the documents that I put into the chat are really just the annual reports. I also put the source document for the Fiddler's Overview. It's more robust than what I shared with you, but it's the parent document. So I wanted to make sure that was out there for everyone as well. What I can do, because put the Fiddler's link and the Fin webpage links in there. So that's the parent Fiddlers page. And again, don't forget that from the parent Fiddlers page, you can get to any center depending on your region. And here in the About, you'll find that map of what county is in which area. So there's a breadcrumb trail there. And then let me do spell Florida right. Let's start with that. Just go ahead and put that in the box as well so that you can have those resources at the ready.
Thank you so much, Patty, for putting this together. It's clear that it's a passion of yours, first of all, and that you are able to share that passion with these individuals. And like I said, I love the fact that it's recorded, and I think the impact will be shared with many others through UCF, and making their start to their career, I think, a little bit better. And with having this kind of knowledge and resources available to them as they tackle it and to meet all the diverse needs in their classrooms, right? That's the challenge of a teacher, right? Is trying to meet the individual needs of everyone. And that is so hard to do, but having these resources, I think, will be a huge benefit to these teachers. So thank you so much for your time and putting it together.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me, giving me the opportunity to share.
Yes, thank you both. I hope you guys have a great evening.
Thank you. We'll see you guys, I don't know, next month or whenever the next session is, but have a good rest of the week. Appreciate your time.
You guys too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.